Hey, everybody. Did you catch me in mid-phrase there? I think I did. How's it going? So I'm going to explain the deal in the actual podcast of why it's just going to be me today. But it's just going to be me today. So here we go.
The Daily Tech News Show with Tom Merritt is funded by patrons like you and me. Each month I pledge $1. Being British, I had no idea what a dollar was, so I stayed up for hours researching and discovered that it is about 62 pence. To pledge 62p, or perhaps even more, go to patreon.com/acedetect.
This is the Daily Tech News for Friday, April 3rd, 2015. I'm Tom Merritt. Just me today, which I generally do on U.S. holidays. Today isn't exactly a U.S. holiday. It is a holiday in some parts of the world, some parts of Europe and elsewhere. It's the Good Friday holiday in some parts of the world. And Len Peralta couldn't make it today to do the illustrating. Darren Kitchen couldn't make it today. And so since a lot of times I see expressions of surprise from certain people that we even do a show on a day like today, I figured, well, let's just do headlines. So maybe a little more expanded than the headlines editions that I do on holidays. And certainly I've got more emails. I threw in a bunch more emails in here today to get to. But it probably still won't be as long as a regular podcast or a regular show, and it will just be me. So if you get bored of me or you don't come to the show for me, my apologies in advance. Let's take a look at some headlines. I did it again! I don't know why I keep doing that. VentureBeat reports Microsoft will not turn on Do Not Track by default in their forthcoming Project Spartan browser. That's the browser that will replace Internet Explorer in Windows 10. Microsoft began turning on Do Not Track by default with the release of Internet Explorer 10 a couple years ago. The W3C standard actually states that users must set their own tracking preferences, so Microsoft's sort of using that as an excuse, although turning it off also doesn't let users set it, so I'm not sure that's exactly right. Anyway, the effectiveness of Do Not Track is in question to begin with. The Digital Advertising Alliance does not require its members to respect the Do Not Track flag, and it requires advertising agencies to respect it for it to really work. And the Better Business Bureau and the Direct Marketing Association do not penalize their members for not honoring the signals. This may be Microsoft bowing both to pressure and reality at the same time. Would have liked something like Do Not Track to work, but it doesn't really seem like it's gonna. Reuters reports Indonesia is looking to expand its requirements that importers of smartphones manufacture a percentage of their product in Indonesia or have their import license revoked. That applies to 3G phones right now. New regulations targeting 4G smartphones are expected to be completed in June and go in force January 1st, 2017. No phones were manufactured in Indonesia until last year. This is an effort to get manufacturing to Indonesia. 15 companies have stated that they have plans to bring manufacturing to Indonesia, including Samsung, that according to the industry ministry. It's working to get people to move some factories into Indonesia. It's certainly going to raise the prices of phones. It is more expensive to manufacture in Indonesia right now, although if you get enough people to manufacture, maybe that price goes down. However, it is questionable whether some companies, namely Apple, I guess, and Samsung has said they will deal with this. Indonesia also saying they may do some things like allow research and development to count towards this requirement rather than actual plants that manufacture. Of course, Apple doesn't actually make anything, so it would be up to Hanhai or Foxconn or somebody like that to figure that part of it out. So maybe Apple could open an R&D office and get away with it. I think Indonesia is going to have to do something like that, but an interesting law. News from you comes from our subreddit, dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. I put a lot of stuff in here. Just give you a window into how I do this. A lot of times there are a lot of votes for a news from you that is the top story of the day, as it should be, right? That's the way it's supposed to work. You guys should be voting on something that everybody in the tech world cares about, and I don't really call those out. And so sometimes I feel like that affects the submissions and the voting because especially the submitters are like, well, I'm not going to get any credit for that one. So I'm giving credit to pretty much everything that came out of the subreddit today. I found that Indonesia story. I believe that the Do Not Track was in the subreddit, but let's get everything else with people's names on it. But do know that I'm not always going to announce the name of somebody who submitted something, but if it has high numbers of votes in the subreddit, that confirms my belief that maybe something is a top story. So it is very helpful. Haterade posted an article about Sony buying what's left of cloud game streamer OnLive. So that's kind of the end of OnLive. Sony Computer Entertainment gets the patents, some other assets, and will shut down the service on April 30th. Now, if you remember, Sony bought a similar game streaming company called Gaikai in July 2012, and they've since used the expertise and platform of Gaikai to launch PlayStation Now. So these patents will help defend that sort of situation, maybe allow them to implement some improvements. VentureBeat notes that Steam games purchased through OnLive will remain in Steam. You aren't going to lose those games. However, there will be no refunds for anything you bought through OnLive, and all your saved games and all your data will be deleted as of April 30th. So if you're an OnLive player, and apparently there aren't that many of you out there, you should realize that you're going to lose all this stuff. So I don't know if there's any way to get that saved game data. I don't know if you want that save game data, but those are the facts. Star Fury Zeta posted the Gizmodo story about the F-35 Gen 3 helmet-mounted display system that lets a pilot see through the aircraft's airframe thanks to infrared cameras streaming from around the aircraft. So it's essentially Wonder Woman's invisible airplane. Additionally, from the inside. From the outside, it still looks like a regular airplane. Additionally, information like airspeed, heading, altitude, targeting information, and warnings are projected on the helmet's visor. So you can just look and see stuff right there. There's not going to be a heads-up display you'd be looking at. For this Oculus Rift of reality in the air, you just need $400,000 and probably Form 4009 or some such thing. But yeah, this is Lockheed Martin and manufacturer Rockwell Collins working together on a pretty sophisticated helmet. SP Sheridan pointed out the Wired piece covering comments made by CTO of Microsoft Azure, Mark Rusinovich, at ChefConf about open sourcing, I should say, because that's the important part, is that word open. Rusinovich was talking about open sourcing Windows. The words getting everyone's excited that he said are the following: it's definitely possible. It's a new Microsoft. But just to pull things back a little bit before you tear things up and run around the room screaming, he also didn't expect it to happen soon. Rusinovich said, if you open source something, but it comes with a build system that takes rocket scientists and 3 months to set up, what's the point? It seems like Rusinovich is trying to say that the Microsoft that vilified open source in the 1990s is gone. Linux can run on Microsoft Azure, partly thanks to Mark Rusinovich, and Microsoft has open sourced other things like .NET. At some point, it would make sense to move Windows to an open source model, do something like Linux where you sell the support and implementation, and that's kind of what they're doing by making Windows 10 upgrades free for individuals and small businesses, but requiring enterprise to still get a contract, because the actual software isn't the important part of what you pay for if you're a large enterprise. Same thing for Red Hat, right? So I think it makes sense that what Rusinovich is saying is, sure, there's a pathway down the road where Microsoft is trying to be a devices and services company still, even though they don't put it that way anymore. And one of the services is installing Windows. Why not take advantage of open sourcing Windows when it makes sense? But he's also pointing out right now we couldn't just open source Windows. It really wouldn't necessarily help anybody yet. But I think it's important that he's indicating that this is something Microsoft is considering. He said that this is a conversation that they have inside of Microsoft. And I imagine this is a conversation that was not had for many years inside of Microsoft. So it is significant nonetheless, even if it doesn't mean you're going to get the source code of Windows tomorrow. And finally, thanks to Star Fury Zeta, we saw the Engadget article that BMW North America's CEO Ludwig Willich told Autoblog that for the introduction of every new model, there will be a plug-in hybrid version of that too. So not just the core models of BMW are going to get plug-in hybrid versions. Every new model will as well. He did say new model and squashed rumors of a BMW i5, i7 plug-in hybrid, though BMW did say when it announced plug-in options for core models back in December that its plug-in hybrid tech could go into any of its vehicles. It was that flexible, so never say never. Still, Willich says it won't happen, quote, anytime soon, at least in the i5, i7. But it's coming to a lot of the others, so it will become common for you to have a BMW plug-in hybrid. And that is a look at the headlines. All right, our pick of the day comes from both Jason in Getting Warmer, Manhattan, and Jonathan from Columbus, 2 hours south of lovely Cleveland. These are all in response to us talking about Amazon Prime Dash buttons earlier this week and me using disposable razor heads as an example. Jason says, you talked about how excited you were to use Amazon Prime Dash to order razor blades. As a much cheaper alternative, I'd like to recommend Dorco razors. The Dorco razor cartridges cost $1 and change per blade, $1 and change per blade, where the major brand blades on Amazon are sold for almost $4 per blade. You can order the blades direct from the manufacturer at dorcousa.com with free shipping. Imagine if that took off, you would see Gillette going all Keurig and trying to DRM their razor blades. But good tip, quite a bit of savings. Thank you, Jason. Also, Jonathan says, listening to episode 2461 about the razor blades in Amazon, I would like to do you and the rest of your audience a favor by recommending shaving with a double-edged razor. The blades last for quite a few shaves and can be had for as little as 13 cents each, compared to the $4 Mach 25 tea tree oil infused turbo galactic blades with rotating DLP color wheel. He says, I have a heavy beard and get no cuts or ingrown hairs with double-edged shaving. I also gave up on using shaving cream 15 years ago. Hot water is all you need. Just, don't be in a hurry. And he recommends the double-edged razors. He's got a couple of Amazon links we'll throw in the show notes as well. So thank you, Jonathan. I've tried the double-edged razor thing before, and I don't have the patience for it. Jonathan is right. You need to not be in a hurry, and it may not be for everyone. But if you do have the patience for it, it definitely is the most cost-effective way to do it. And he's right about the shaving cream. You can just do the hot water again if you're slow. If you're careful. I never had anything horrible happen either. I just got worried. I was like, you know what? I need something quick and painless. So thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Jason. Those are our picks of the day. Send your picks to feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com, and you can find my picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. Too much scrolling in the chat room is saying Tom doesn't need shaving. I do. I not only trim the beard, but I shave this down here so it doesn't outgrow the beard that's on my face. Got a bunch of emails, so this is what I wanted to focus on today. This is essentially going to be our discussion section. A bunch of emails from a bunch of great people in the audience. Thank you, everyone in the audience, for sharing your expertise. You guys are the best, and it's only been getting better lately. 40 Thieves in the chat, a.k.a. Allie Smith, says, I realize I've probably missed the edit now, as this is from last week, but it's still super interesting to me. Thank goodness for a headlines-only show, 40 Thieves. Microsoft is accepting patches from Adobe into their new browser project, Spartan. I'd not really considered the possibility that Microsoft might open source Spartan previously, but the more I think about it, the more it makes sense to me. Firstly, Microsoft is really trying to sell Spartan as a new and different browser, killing the IE brand and strongly emphasizing web standards, at least in the web development community. They also recently announced their intent to open source .NET, as I mentioned earlier, another of Microsoft's big closed source projects. Finally, apart from Safari, all the major desktop browsers are open source. Am I crazy? Well, 40 Thieves, especially in light of what Rusinovich was saying about all of Windows, you're not crazy at all. My only question is, when would they do it, and why wouldn't they have done it already? Now the Project Spartan is out in the builds. One would think that if they were going to open source that engine, that they would be indicating that now. But maybe they're not ready to do that yet. I'm trying to remember when, in the course of its development, WebKit became open source as an engine, and maybe some of you remember, and you can let us know. It would not still be outside the realm of possibility for Microsoft to wait until they've beat up on this in the beta a little bit to say, okay, we feel comfortable with it, let's open source it. I don't think it's a guarantee, but you've certainly got a point. And it does seem like something Microsoft might be willing to do much more now than they have in the past. I don't think it's going to happen for some reason, and I think it's because I feel like Microsoft would have telegraphed that already. I don't think they have any any benefit in not saying we'd like to make this open source eventually once it's ready, or that they wouldn't get more benefit by open sourcing it right out of the gate. But I could be way wrong. I'm definitely not 100% sure on this one. So thank you, 40 Thieves. Very intriguing. And being late to the Project Spartan conversation was not a problem because it fit right in with the Rusinovich news today. Got an email from Mark who said, on your Wednesday show, you and Allison talked a lot about accessibility for phone apps. It was a great discussion. Well, thanks. Mark has a couple of things that came to mind. First of all, he's like, you guys didn't talk about websites much, but they're actually a large percentage of what people visit from their computer and phone, and they have a lot of accessibility issues and solutions. The U.S. federal government and many other governments publish standards on accessibility. For the United States, it's called Section 508, or longer, Section 508 Amendment to the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. This addresses accessibility across everything digital, from documents to websites to applications, and there's even a easy URL if you want to go to section508.gov. While a lot of what you talked about is part of this, such as text instead of images for buttons, there are other things as well that are less obvious, like ensuring contrasting colors for people who are colorblind. There are a number of tools that can automatically test for objective items, things like alt tags on images, but there is a lot of accessibility that is more qualitative and open to interpretation and requires people who are dedicated to testing and ensuring accessibility. As an example, our company has a number of people dedicated to Section 508 compliance and accessibility, including people who actually depend on it. In other words, people who are blind or deaf and others. This might be a case where the federal government or governments are ahead of industry since it's part of their mission. Many agencies issue Section 508 report cards and grade their systems on accessibility. Thank you, Mark. Chock full of information there, and I would highly recommend, if you are in web development and interested in accessibility, that you go and take a look at section508.gov. If you don't already know about it, maybe you're like, this is old news to me. Of course I know about section508.gov, but I had not heard of that, so thank you, Mark. Travis wrote a detailed note. Travis, first of all, thank you very much for taking the time to share all of that with me. It's obviously more than I can read out on a show. But I want to pull out one paragraph where he was talking about the Surface and Surface Pro and how they're used in his world as an IT manager. He wrote, iPads are great. I've had one since the iPad 2 and loved it, but they can be a bear to manage for our company. Something like the Surface, and he's talking about the Surface, not the Surface Pro, both actually, we can manage with our existing group policies and deliver all of the software we need. And of course, the new Surface not being our team means it's easier to deliver that software because it's the same software as on any other Win32 device. He goes on, the HP, Dell, and Lenovo devices, again, are nice and more serviceable, i.e. removable battery, SSD, etc. However, they typically aren't built as well, and some features do not function quite as well as they do on the Surface. For example, the pen and digitizer work better on the Surface than the Dells in our experience. That's just a little bit of what he was saying, but he was talking about how excited he is because the Surface Pro has been so good in the enterprise for him, to have the cheaper option, the Surface, to be able to implement and put into certain situations. Thank you, Travis. And finally, TV's Egon wrote in, thank you, boss, said, while I am not currently an engineer for a cable company, I was one previously and worked directly with upgrading the infrastructure of our network to implement the new DOCSIS 3 technologies. If you're not familiar, DOCSIS 3 allows you to deliver higher speeds over existing cable infrastructure. Parsing the various statements shows that while Comcast looks to be leveraging their current business fiber offering for Metro Atlanta subscribers, a technology offered by most cable internet providers, Wired's post of an article right around the end of Friday's DTNS episode had an expanded quote from Comcast mentioning specifically that their new DOCSIS 3.1 implementation will allow, quote, almost every customer in our footprint to be able to receive gigabit speeds over our existing network. So remember yesterday I mentioned that Comcast said they're going to bring 2 gigabit to 18 million people and a gigabit to almost everyone in their footprint. Well, TV's Egon found the smoking gun of how they're going to do that, DOCSIS 3.1. He goes on, this is telling, as Comcast would need to spend tens of billions of dollars to implement a fiber to the home solution to their 20 million subscribers. This is based on a fairly low estimate of $1,500 per fiber install. As they had approximately that many total cable subscribers a couple of years ago, it will be interesting to see how they plan to roll out a true fiber solution to so many people. Not that a DOCSIS 3.1 solution is a bad thing, as the new standard offers multi-gigabit download speeds and significant upload speeds as well, though not symmetrical. If you notice, the 2 gigabit service was symmetrical because they can do that. They're on fiber. Due to the nature of DOCSIS technology, symmetrical, just not a thing. Comcast is one of the companies really pushing hard for the new standard with some of the first live test deployments to the field. Thank you, Greg. So, yeah, it was almost an implication, and I'm sure Comcast didn't mind if you took that away accidentally, that they would bring 2 gigabit per second fiber to Atlanta and gigabit to the rest of the footprint, but not fiber, is what TVZ Gon's pointing out here. It would be DOCSIS 3.1, so it wouldn't be symmetrical. It wouldn't require any new infrastructure. It's something that they were probably going to bring out anyway as they got DOCSIS 3.1 rolling. Still a little more motivated to do it, obviously. But thank you, Greg. That does make a difference, and it's a good thing to know. All right, looking at the chat room, BioCow says, on June 7th, 2005, Safari developer Dave Hyatt announced on his weblog that Apple was open sourcing WebKit. So it came later in the development of Safari. Good to know. Maybe there's hope for open source Spartan or whatever they end up calling it yet. Like I said, short show today, but thank you all. Hope you got something out of it anyway, and really appreciate you being the guest, you being the co-host today. Of course, if you are one of the bosses, we thank you so much. I had a guy ask me, he's like, how's that money spent? And the short answer is the money is spent on us. It's spent on me and Jenny and Patrick and Justin. There's a little bit spent, obviously, on internet and web hosting and those sorts of things. But we really, the way we're pitching this is value for value. Like you're paying our salary. And our salary goes up or down based on how much value you get out of the show. So that's why we always position it that way. If you feel like we deserve $1, then go to patreon.com/acedetect and give it to us. And if you don't, that's fine. Or if you can't afford it, that's fine. We actually have a store too, dailytechnewsshow.com/store. If you're like, I can't give regularly, but I could justify buying a mouse pad or a t-shirt or a phone charger or something like that. We've got cool stuff up there as well. So whatever way you support, even just telling people about the show, we appreciate it. dailytechnewsshow.com/support. All right. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. You can give us a call, 512-59-DAILY. That's 512-593-2459. Listen to the show live at tunein.alphageekradio.com, and our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. Back with a full show on Monday. Todd Whitehead from Alpha Geek Radio will join us. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Hello, Dr. Merritt's office.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I have a problem that I need your assistance with.
Yes, sir. How may I help you?
I find great value in receiving my daily tech news from well-established tech geeks like myself and would like to support them, but I can't remember how.
Well, sir, you got the case of the Daily Tech News Blues.
Oh, no. That sounds dangerous.
It can be harmful, but if you just head over to bit.ly/help DTNS to provide your direct support, you'll feel better immediately, knowing you're supporting the best daily tech news podcast on the web.
Whew. Thank you so much, ma'am.
No problem. Now please hold while I patch you through to Dr. Merritt.
That was a little long to play at the beginning of the show, but I wanted to play it because those guys did a great job putting that together. Thank you for sending that. Definitely appreciate it. That's cool. I love it when we get those things. All right, I'm gonna stay on this video. You can stop it if you are looking for something in our usual vein of post-show discussions, but I'm gonna leave it up while I levelate. Maybe I'll pull some things from the chat word. Ken from Chicago loved the Dr. Merritt segment. Awesome. I'm glad. There will actually, in the audio version of the show, be a new episode of Ask a Luddite with Rich from lovely Cleveland about Twitch. It's a good episode. Really, he puts them up on SoundCloud if you want to take a look at them. And I'll put I think Jenny's been putting those links in the show notes now that we've been getting them that way. But yeah, that's a show just worth checking out and subscribing to there on its own. I love the way he does. If you haven't listened to it yet, essentially at the end of the audio show, when he sends me one, I tack on Ask a Luddite. It's, 4 or 5 minutes. And it's him and a friend of his who isn't really into technology, and he throws out a concept. And sometimes, like in the case of cord cutting, the concept is very familiar, and he's got his own ideas, his friend does. And sometimes, like Twitch, he's never heard of it before, and those are good too. Those are actually some of the best ones when he's like, what? Why would you do that? So it's a good one today. Check that out. I have levelated. Where can you watch the post-show stuff? Oh, if you're not watching the post-show stuff, you can't hear me answer that, because here is the answer. That's all I'm going to say, because that's all because I will, otherwise I'll mess up the export trying to think of something else to say. Still, it's Good Friday, don't you think? Ha! I'm just naming this one headlines, by the way, just so we don't overpromise. 2464. I do miss Len and Darren today. At least I got to see Darren over the weekend at the Buzz Out Loud thing. Hack 5 did such an amazing job. Send those guys a tweet of appreciation. If you watched the Buzz Out Loud reunion, they worked so hard. They just kicked ass putting that together. It ran flawlessly. They are pros at the Hack 5 warehouse. It's not a warehouse. It is a warehouse, but it's a studio. Like, it's a legit studio. So good job, Darren Kitchen. HAK5.org. Headlines by Dr. Merritt. Oh, crap. I almost forgot. So after saying, see, this is why I got to pay attention. After saying I was going to put Ask a Luddite in, I didn't put it in and exported the MP3. So now I have to actually put it in. Helps if you actually add the thing that you said you were going to put in there. All right. Now I put it in. Let's see if my ID3 tags. Yes, I want to replace that one. No, I hate that. So sometimes when you slide an MP3 into Audacity, it the ID3 tags that it had, which I kind of cheat and just use the same ones and just change the track title, go away. They just get replaced by the new MP3. Why would I want that to happen? I guess maybe sometimes I would. In this case, there were no ID3 tags in the new file, so it just overwrote them with nothing. Okay. Now we're cooking with gas. HD version of BOL Reunion is available. If you go to bit.ly/BOL10year, lowercase but numerals, there's a link to the archive.org. It is huge. It's very low. I think it's like 11 gigs, but it's high def. You get all the bits. Yeah, Silverblade says use MP3 tag. I do. I don't use MP3 tag. I use something like MP3 tag, but in Audacity, it's a way to cheat before using MP3 tag. It's not that I can't re-edit them. I can. I'm just being incredibly lazy. That's all. Yeah, what do I use? I use ID3 Editor. It's just a little quirk in Audacity, that's all. You can save an ID3 preset in Audacity? You'll have to tell me more about that. I didn't think you could do that in Audacity. Oh. So here, bit.ly/BOL10 BOL 10-year. There is a current geek tonight. Absmurfly. And it will be amazing. Well, as long as someone doesn't dig up Scott's internet again, there will be a current geek tonight. But I'm assuming that's not going to happen. You still wouldn't watch a terrible. Okay. Now off to the uploading. I generally upload to SoundCloud and archive.org at the same time. I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but I do it. Does it not, knock on wood, yet cause me any trouble? But I'm still one of those guys who feels bad when I don't log out of something because I got yelled at for not logging out of our system at the University of Illinois in 1992. And it's burned into your little 22-year-old brain. Always log out. You don't have to log out anymore. Nobody cares. They figured that out a long time ago. But it used to be a problem. Yes, correct. Ken from Chicago. Dan Benjamin is back, except even though he was never actually on last week, but he is going to be on the show tonight. Again, barring someone digging up Dan Benjamin or some act of God. But the plan is for us to do Current Geek at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern with Dan Benjamin. Not John Benjamin. Much better, Dan Benjamin. Or Private Benjamin. Not that person either. Yeah, I know Scott got online about 2 hours later. By that time, I was out eating tacos. I was 3 tacos in. Yeah, I guess we could have done it late, but Scott's approach with Current Geek, I think, is, that we will do it when all things are well, so that we do it well, and there's no need to strain. H. John Benjamin, however, is awesome. I don't know who John Benjamin is, but if you mean H. John Benjamin, the voice of Archer and Bob from Bob's Burgers, then by golly, I agree with you. We should have got Dan Benjamin and H. John Benjamin both. That's what I wish. That's my Christmas wish. My Easter wish, I guess. Silverblade is an example of the people I was talking about. Nothing is open today in Silverblade City except for coffee places. All righty then. I believe everything is working. I seem to have uploaded everything without screwing it up. Let me view the post. All right. I am out of the post. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Again, back to the full show on Monday. Talk to you then.